Oh, okay. Good morning to everybody, and very welcome to this issue, this show, or this number of our podcast about business in Japan and Japanese SMEs, and also the hidden gem here in Japan. Once again, we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Joe Hug. Welcome, Joe, and thank you very much for your time today. I want to say that this is one of our pre-recorded podcasts because we are accommodating Dr. Joe Hug's schedule. And of course, yes, thank you so very much for this, making time again for the recording. And it's a pleasure to have with us also everybody who is watching now on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, listening to us in Clubhouse as well. You probably already know Dr. Hug, and you know that he's a polymath, a startup mentor, and an angel investor. And he's also a business leader, if I can say this too, because he also teaches business and strategy and other stuff. So we've got here something to talk about today, another hidden gem in Japan. But before I let Dr. Joe walk us through the recent findings, I want to say thank you to our first sponsor, and that is Kanachu. Oh, okay. Kanachu. No. Oh, okay. Here we go. So, Kanachu, or as they are known online, kanachu.com. You can find them online and also connect with James via email at james@kanachu.com. James, who is very active on LinkedIn, reach out to him and talk with him. If you have any projects in mind in the fields of buying and selling real estate in Yokohama, real estate investment and property management, the company is based in Yokohama, but they can help you with advice as well. You can speak with them either in English or in Japanese, so the language barrier is not an issue. And once again, a big thank you to Kanachu or kanachu.com for being our sponsors. We have worked with them and we love them. Not only because they're sponsors, actually, we were friends before they sponsored this podcast. So once again, a huge thank you, and back to the podcast. So Dr. Joe, please allow me to ask you, what are we going to hear?
Yeah. What's today's story? I'm
What's
at the
today's
edge of my
story?
seat.
Yes.
Wow, gosh. Yeah, today's story. Actually, it's a little revamp of Hidden Champion, and that this is just for those listeners who may be joining in for the first time or may have missed some of the previous episodes we did together. But I do have one specific Hidden Champion, and then 5 other additional Hidden Champions. But this time around, a little treat for those of you who have been listening before. Actual names of companies.
Wow, that's a
Which,
first.
yeah, yeah, it is a first.
Nice.
And let me explain what I mean by that for the listeners out there. Is in the past when we had sessions, because of the approval process that we go through when we try to ask permission and then eventually get the permission from the companies that we interview. A lot of times they would rather remain unknown.
Yeah.
For many reasons, and actually today we're going to learn about those reasons. And you know, they like to keep their privacy, these companies. They like the way things are, and they don't really seek attention. And so sometimes getting permission for us to reveal who they are, the companies or the CEO names and things like that, they prefer not to. But this year we're gonna try to continue to ask to see if we can reveal their names and at least, you know, the products and services that they offer. So today is a special day because we do get to name a few of these companies.
Great. Well, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
It's so funny what you said though.
Well, great.
What's so true is you just said a company that does not seek attention.
Right.
How many of those exist in America?
Right.
I'd have to ask. I don't know the answer, but it seems like in America you think, of course you want attention, a good attention,
Right.
not bad attention, good attention, right? But not here. They quietly go about their business, you know. So that's an interesting cultural dimension to it.
It is
Cultural
indeed.
take, absolutely. Yeah, and it's like, for those of you who are interested in marketing or PR, it's like they always say, even bad PR is good PR, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, in the
Yeah,
West. Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Just to get your name out there.
Yeah.
right.
I think that's what helps companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi when they battle each other. Sales go up, right? On both
Right.
sides.
Yeah, I
But
kind of,
yeah, but
I
these hidden
just
champions are
as an
different.
aside, about the
Sure.
not seeking attention on a macro level, and I've mentioned this to Maya and Michael Foster. I look at Japanese pop culture, anime, all that. I don't think they pushed it to the world.
No.
And yet,
No,
over the
no,
long haul, they endeared the world to it
right.
quietly, softly,
Quiet.
like it was the long game. And it was part of it. I feel like they didn't necessarily seek that attention. Is that a fair
Exactly.
assessment, Maya, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's yes, it is indeed, and I think that once again, there are many reasons for that. Okay,
Yeah.
first, I think that basically, not only with anime but with other things, let's say even travel
Yeah, many things.
destinations, Japan as a travel destination, or Japanese companies in general, they are playing the long game. This there is no mistake there. They are Japanese. This is one of their values, and they don't want quick gains. Right? It has to be stable. It has to be steady. It has to be in the long term. But another thing is that I believe that the Japanese companies and the Japanese in general are not good at promoting themselves,
Not at all. Not
right?
at all.
And
You're
that
not
is
supposed
also
to. You're supposed to
you're
be humble.
exactly
Yeah,
that's a cultural trait
right,
which actually shows in business that you are not supposed to brag about yourself. And what is PR if not bragging about
right.
yourself,
Let
right?
your actions do the
Indeed.
talking. Like
Yeah,
Right.
talk is cheap here. And I would
indeed.
say that fits
Right.
everything. They put out quality
Right.
products. That's their actions.
Yes.
Speak for themselves, right? So
Right.
anyway,
Right.
a little sidetrack there,
It's
but
kind of
I
hard
think
for
it
me
was a,
to. No, no,
yeah.
yeah. It's kind of hard for me to also, and I've lived here for many, many, many years in Japan, but it's also kind of hard for me to be silent sometimes and just, let it go. Like the film,
I
let it
think,
go.
yeah, we all feel that from time to time, even after decades of living in
You
Japan.
have to be strategic and pick your battles, and sometimes you speak up when you really feel like you have to, and sometimes you weigh it and go, is it worth it? You know what? In this case, let's
Right.
go with harmony for now, and we'll work things out later behind. You got to learn to judge strategically, pick your battles,
Yeah.
when to assert
Mhm.
yourself. Otherwise, then you get rejected if you assert yourself too much. But you can do it though, as a foreigner. You get a little extra
Or,
license. They give you a little
or
extra
yeah, yeah,
leeway.
a little bit.
They cut you a little more slack.
but
Right.
but you still get the pounding, right?
Yeah, but I've mentioned this before, but when I was in a company, I had some subordinates, and they would come to me and they say they're Japanese, and our boss is Japanese, and they go, Tim, we want to say this, but we can't because we're Japanese. You're a gaijin. You can say it. Would you say this, or would you press the boss? So they would come to me, and if I took the heat from it, it was hard for them to give me heat because they kind of needed me. But if I took the heat, they were more grateful. Like, I was covering for them. Like they acknowledged because I was a foreigner, I could take liberties they couldn't, and they would actually ask me to play the gaijin card, or they say
Right.
gaijin power. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Use your
Yeah, yeah,
gaijin
yeah. I,
power.
I agree. Yeah, it's
So
it is sometimes helpful. Certainly, I agree. Like you said, you get permission to
Mhm.
make mistakes that Japanese would not be allowed to
right,
make.
right, right.
Um,
Or even to be
but
a
it's still
little assertive, or even stuff
Right.
like that. Not just mistakes, but
Well, you don't
saying the
know any
truth,
better.
saying the truth when everybody wants harmony, that's when you could get in trouble sometimes. But anyway, so
Oh boy, could I
getting
talk
back
about
on
that for a
track.
while?
I untracked you. I got you off track. So moving the conversation back, my bad. So today we get to learn the
No, no.
identity of some of these great companies that don't necessarily want the attention.
Right, and may come after me for it. No, they won't.
No, I don't think so.
Just joking. No, they won't. Yeah. So as Maya mentioned at the start, these companies that we're going to be talking about today are special in many ways. Obviously, they're relatively unknown, and thus they are called hidden champions. A term coined from a professor in Germany. And some of you may already know this, and some of you in the audience may not know. So let's go ahead and go into the criterias of these hidden champions. Well, Maya, can you show us that first slide?
Absolutely, yes. Oh,
We're all technical goofs today. that tells we're live. This is unedited.
Yeah,
it is unedited, yes.
I love it. That's the best way to go.
It's authentic.
Yeah. So the term hidden champions, right? So really, what it means is that they're niche leaders in their industry and what they do and provide to their customers. And the other thing too is that they're really unknown, meaning the general public doesn't know their name. They may know the product, they may use the product,
Right.
but they don't know where it came from, or originated from, or who it is that's creating this product, right? They don't, or
Right.
Even if you tell them the name, they're like, okay, never heard of them.
Right.
And this was a topic of interest to Professor Simon from Germany, who began this research, and he began to find these hidden champion gem companies all over Germany, and then expanded his studies to other nations, and come to find out that a lot of these hidden champions are based either in Germany or Japan. Those are the two nations with the most. That's not to say that there are not hidden champions anywhere else. There are, obviously, in other nations, but the majority of them are in these two great nations of Germany and Japan, which, by the way, I'm not an expert of German culture, but I've heard that it's relatively similar to that of Japan. Do any of you know about that
Yes.
or heard the same?
Yes, I have a friend who moved from Japan to Germany. It was already 15 years ago, and what I hear from them is that there are so many commonalities between the two cultures. And still, of course, Germany being a European culture, and in the West, it's a little bit different, but still they find a lot of common things there between Japan and Germany, and the way they see things, the business mindset, and the way they do business as well.
Process oriented, is that I've heard
One
that.
of them, yes. One
Yeah,
of them, yes.
one of the similarities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
And maybe like group cohesion or group discussions and making decisions and such.
Yes.
Probably the same, I would think, right? As compared to like America, where people like to stand out.
Right. Yeah.
But my German friends are pretty direct, and Japanese are less direct in their they do a lot behind the scenes, right? So there are similarities, but I think there's also differences in styles. Like the level of directness is different, I think. Same with America too. And the Dutch, I heard, are the most direct. They put the Germans to shame.
Really?
So,
Ooh, I would love to meet somebody from there and hear what they're all about. just to get some direct feedback, anyways.
Right.
Yeah, you know where you stand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get a little bit of honesty, right? Yeah. So hidden champions. That's the topic of today, and I am going to provide a few examples today, so everybody can get an idea of what we're talking about. But let's go ahead and kind of look at the 1,000 meter perspective view of what a hidden champion is. So Maya, can you take us to that second slide?
Yes.
And I'm a visual person, and so that's why I provided a few slides, not many, just a few. I'm quite visual, and I think people enjoy that. I hope.
Right.
Which is
Yes.
a little bit different than your standard kind of podcast, isn't it? Right?
True. Very much so. Yes. So we appreciate the time you put into preparing the slides because
Yeah,
there are a
I
lot of
like the
people.
slides. I
Yes,
like them.
a lot of people who have
Thank you.
come and said that it helps them understand the story better,
Yeah.
the concepts better as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's pleasing to the eye rather than
Yeah,
my
I agree.
face.
Well done. I agree. They're well done. I like your
Yes.
use of space.
Yeah,
There's a
thank
lot of
you.
open space. It's easy to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Not too much text. Yeah. So the criteria of hidden champions, right? When we're talking about these hidden champion companies, what they're all about, and these are not all the qualifiers, obviously, but the main qualifiers of what makes them hidden champions. And one is that um, they are the leaders in their marketplace, whatever it is that they're producing. And what I mean by leaders is they typically have the highest market share within that industry or within that market that they're selling. There are other competitors but they are the ones that have the most market share. Secondly, is that they have consistent high profitability, no matter what the economic situation is, um, or shifts in the marketplace, or changes in the competitive space. They are still profitable. Very rarely, uh, from the research that my my research students and I conducted, very rarely did they ever have a bad year. Um, they had hard times, where they had to tighten down and say, okay, we're not going to be able to, for example, hire new staff this year, but still, uh, they didn't reduce their workforce and they continued on and kept their clients that they originally had. And of course, the third thing is that they're relatively unknown. I mean, even if like I said earlier, if I mention the names, which we're going to see a little bit later, we mention the names, people are going to say, well, I don't know who that is. However, I do have a treat today. I do have one example of a picture, and I hope, Tim, Maya,
Yeah.
when you look at the picture, you're able to say, "Oh, I know that company."
Okay,
I
let's
hope.
see.
uh, so let's go on then to the first example of a hidden champion, in the next slide, and there's the name of this company. Um, did you ever hear of this company before?
Yanagia.
Either.
I
I'm
mean, the name, I've heard the name Yanagia, but I've never heard, you know, I don't recall hearing of this company. I don't.
right
Right?
because
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder.
However,
I
if
wonder.
you look,
No, I wanted to say
go
it's
ahead.
Yanagi is such a common name here in Japan that
Yeah, yeah.
there are probably different companies with this name in different parts of Japan. And even though the name sounds familiar, I don't know this company.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what they make, what their product
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
So, but just one point you made is they're not well known by the general public. But on the other hand, they must be really well known within their niche among the players in their niche, whatever
right.
niche they're,
Mhm.
right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have the largest market share, right? But it's a very narrow niche where
Exactly.
they have that expertise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And by the way, I just noticed, I think we have about a 1 second lag between us all. So
Yeah.
uh,
Huh.
look out for that.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Gotcha.
uh, but look at that center picture. Now, I'm sure Maya and Tim and those of us who have lived in Japan for a while, and of course our Japanese audience members, everybody's familiar with that product, right? That little fish cake.
Oh, that is kamaboko? Is that the
It's
fish cake? Or is it
yeah.
the kani
Kani, the fake kani.
yes.
Yeah, it's the one that they put like an udon soup.
Oh, that's then kamaboko, yes. Okay, that's the
Oh,
fish cake.
kamaboko. It's shaped like a D when they finish it.
And
Right.
yeah, it's usually sold on, well, it is stuck or to a small wooden plate, right?
Yeah.
And
So
it is shaped like a D.
when I went to
Right.
ICU at the end of the semester, I asked one of my Japanese, "How was what grade did you get?" He said, "Kamaboko." He got a D. That's how he. I got a kamaboko.
Right.
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually never thought that
Yeah.
it was
So,
shaped like a D. Okay, let's go.
hey, I learned something today too. I didn't think of it that way.
I have all these
I thought of it
useless,
like a half a circle.
all these useless stories I have. But go ahead.
Uh,
Well, it puts it into perspective. So now from now on, I'm gonna call it the D.
The D kamaboko.
um, so here's a great example, Yanagiya, and how they came about success, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, of what makes a hidden champion. But how they came to success is that from their original founding and to now, they pretty much make the same product, pretty much. And what I mean by that is obviously they've innovated, improved upon their process and what they deliver to their customers. So they have improved. So it's not to say that they're not innovative, because they are. What they're just doing is continuously improving upon and making things better of what it is
right.
that they're producing. And what's interesting about their story is that um, what made them not just successful, and Tim hit upon this when he said they may be relatively unknown, but they're well known within their niche, right?
Right.
Which is true. And what made them well known within their niche is, um, for a long time, they were just another one of the competitors. There were other companies were making the same kinds of products, etc. But there came a time, and this was just after World War II, when it was difficult for companies to get raw products, right?
Yeah.
To make what they were trying to make. And just like another company that we're going to be seeing in a couple of slides, or maybe the next slide, what they did was, rather than just compete, they began to share their knowledge with
Right.
others in that niche. And by doing so, they kind of became the de facto go-to leader who
Expert.
was innovating. Yeah, the
Yeah.
experts, exactly. And hence they took the larger portion of the market share.
Yeah.
That is something, I guess, culturally
Yeah.
important to why these hidden champions are so many of them are here in Japan, because they're willing to share the knowledge with
Yes.
others, even though they're competitors.
Yeah.
But
And in the case of this company, yes.
I have a question. So Yanaya, do they sell direct to the market, or they have customers they sell to, like big customers? How does it
Yeah,
work in the market?
yeah, they have other customers. So we would probably say it would be a B2B
Okay.
Business to business.
in this
Okay.
time, right,
Yes.
B2B kind of company now, right? So, but
Mhm.
in the beginning, they were B2C, right? They were selling directly to customers, right?
Right. Yes, if I may add, I have noticed this in other industries as well. So if you have lived in Japan for a while and you have worked in any industry here, you have probably noticed that there is an industry association or a federation of the companies that work in or that operate in that industry. And I haven't seen that back home, although there probably are some associations, industrial bodies. Here in Japan, it's everywhere. In each industry, you've got the association that represents that industry and lobbies the government so that basically when they get together, they get the power to say, we want this, or we think this, our industry should go in this way and that way. And as you said, Joe, usually those associations, they have a couple of leaders, maybe one, two, or three. And those leaders are always open to training others in the industry. And I think this is, as you said, it's very
Mm-hmm.
cultural because of the group orientation in Japan, of course. But also, I think that there are benefits from working together, even though they still compete with each other, they work together. And by doing that, they create the environment for their industry, an environment which allows them to thrive. It allows them to
Bigger
learn from
pie.
each other. A bigger pie, yes. It
They
allows
make a
them to
bigger
learn,
pie.
yes, to
Yeah.
learn from each other, to innovate, because when they share ideas, eventually they innovate, right? So it is a fascinating
Mm-hmm.
trait, a cultural trait here in Japan, which you can see has a direct impact on business and a direct expression in business as well.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think I also believe I've seen this in the manufacturing industry, but this kind of behavior, cooperative amongst competitors.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Japanese companies in the US, and the Americans who worked for these companies were almost worried about collusion. Like, they may be able to do this in
Mm.
Japan, but there's some limits to like how much they can do it here. But the reason I asked about who they were selling to, oftentimes quietly, the customer above you exerts pressure and says, times are tough. We love your product. We want to continue giving you our biggest share of business, but you got to help these other companies too, because we need that too. And you got to
Mm-hmm.
do that because we got to coexist. So sometimes that pressure, I've seen it where we were competing with another company, their line went down, our customer was going to be shut down. It wasn't our fault, but they asked us to go help them. And we kind of did it quietly. It wasn't like we didn't tell all the Americans. They just went and did it. So I saw it from pressure from above. Not, I don't want to say reluctantly. I think they felt proud that they were asked to teach their competitors something.
Right. Sure.
But
Sure.
so I've said, I don't know. Do you think some of that possibly went on? There was pressure maybe from above, from the customers to
I
share that
Yeah, I
knowledge.
agree with you. Yeah, I agree. I think um, often it's this close relationship, and we have been told that, but during our interviews that these hidden champions have a very close relationship, continuous relationship with their
Yeah.
customers. So they listen to them,
Yeah.
and like you said, like what are the economic times? What are the changes that they're wishing for, and then that's how a lot of the innovation comes to reality, by listening and then producing something that the customer really was hoping for or looking for.
Right.
Sure.
Great. Okay.
So before we go into the halftime,
Yeah, we are at
there's the
halftime.
halftime. it kind of reminds me of something, and I'm not trying to confuse the topic, but a long time ago, I saw a documentary about these big stores in America going into small towns, um, and then killing the local competition, the little
The
mom
mom
and
and
pop
pops.
stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what happens later is when that big department store says, "Well, you know, we're not making the profit we want," and then they leave the town, then the towns are really in trouble because everything's
Yeah.
gone now. Right? The
Yeah.
competition was killed
Yeah.
off, and now the big boys are leaving. And so I think in Japan, they try to avoid that. They try to avoid
The
killing
greater
off the
good.
competition.
The
Yeah.
Right,
greater
for the
good.
greater good.
You know, because the greater good allows long-term success, and the short-term good for selfish good for oneself only. You might get something short-term, but it's usually not sustainable. I mean, again, like we've talked about this in previous pods, but you know, that harmony, social responsibility, not because they're nice, but because they're smart and they're long-term oriented. I think that, and, you know, and the other thing interesting before we move on, market share. Like
Mhm.
Japanese, traditionally, market share was really important to them. Sometimes over
Mm,
profits. So, I mean, I guess I'm exaggerating,
mm.
but so I thought that was interesting too. They had the biggest market share.
Well, that was true for the radio industry and TV industry. Sure, sure.
Oh, okay.
All
Interesting.
right, we're in the halfway point, Maya. Take us there.
Well, yes,
Our
it's time.
great sponsor.
Yes, our great sponsors, and it is this time House. House Inc. Well, you already know that they work in the fields of custom home design and construction. They also do commercial building construction, and you can find some of their best examples on their website, which is www.house.co.jp, or you can also just follow James Howell on LinkedIn and see some of the pictures there that, of the work of Housing. You can also connect with the company via their webmaster at house.co.jp email, or of course reach out by phone or by email to James as well. You can connect with Hano Rishizawa Howell as well and talk with them either in Japanese or in English. They do custom home design and they create beautiful houses indeed. So please do not hesitate, reach out to them and talk with them so that they can customize their services to your needs. And now we are back to the presentation and the hidden gems or hidden champions in Japan.
All right, thank you, Maya. All right, so we're gonna go to the next slide, but before we go there, take a quick look at the picture and then see if you can identify which company it is. Okay, Maya,
The
show
next
us that
slide.
picture.
The next slide, yes,
Nice.
let's see. This one. I'll show you. That is Saijo. Saijo Shoyu. Is this a company that makes soy sauce?
I can't answer that.
Because it looks, no, maybe it's different. I'm not sure I'm reading the kanji characters well, but what I can say is that this sign above the door is written from right, to be read from right to left.
Saijo.
Saijo. I'm
Yeah.
not, or maybe it's not Saijo. It has a different rating. Okay.
But Maya, that's it. We talked about this before when they were first starting to write, not vertically but horizontally.
Yes.
They started out going from right to left.
Yes.
And there's still a hotel here in Atami where you have to read it from right to left. And I was confused the first time I saw it, and then I looked it up and found the history. So this was really early on. This is a while back, when they started adopting the, what is it, Yokoji?
Yes, Yokoji. Yes.
So
Okay, so
okay, so
well, I thought
like
you would guess by
sake.
the by the logo.
The
The
logo.
logo
Yes,
has
that
not changed.
Expand it.
that is the soy sauce company, isn't it? No? Am I mistaken? I may be.
Are you being coy, Dr. Joe? Come on. What are you teasing?
Help us. Help us.
Perhaps.
Help us. Hmm?
Perhaps. Of course, our Japanese audience would be able to guess it right away, but I'm just putting you all through the test.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I'm
obviously
checking
failed.
this.
Failed miserably.
Me too. And Ari,
Oh no!
Shoda? No.
I'm
Kikkoman? No,
gonna
it's
give you a
no.
big D.
Okay.
At least we didn't get an F. A kamaboko. We get one
Yeah,
kamaboko.
So
What is
the
it? What
company
is it? Yes.
Kikkoman.
Kikkoman?
Like-
Is this how they read it? Kikkoman? Oh, wow.
I-
Okay.
So you said Kikkoman, right, Maya?
Kikkoman, yes.
Yes.
You did say.
Yeah, I
Maya
mentioned
said
it, but I said I mentioned it, but
I
I
think
never thought that it was Kikkoman. Yes.
You weren't confident when you said it.
I wasn't, no.
You were just winging it.
Right.
Okay. Doesn't wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, from what I found interesting is that their logo has not changed from
Right. It's wow.
for their early years.
Doesn't Michael
And
Foster
what's
work for
interesting now?
Kikkoman?
Why I mentioned Kikkoman, and they're technically not a hidden champion anymore. However, they were a hidden champion for many years, even into the early 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the previous company that we looked at, they also began to share their knowledge with their competitors. Again, it was this lack of access to raw materials to be able to produce the product that they were trying to produce, the quality that the customers expected. And what is interesting also about Kikkoman compared to the other company, the true hidden champion that's still a hidden champion, is that they wanted to avoid what's called racing to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
When competitors compete against each other, utilize cheaper materials or ingredients or additives and things like that. And what happens is it just begins to cheapen the product. And they wanted to avoid that race to the bottom. And so instead of everybody having this low quality product, they said, look, we're going to share our knowledge. Let's all make high quality products, right, together. And I think it's a great story, and that is what made them even more big.
Yes.
Eventually growing out of that stage of hidden champion.
At the same time, I think that here, if looked from overseas, somebody who comes from the Western world, if the story you just told us that they urged everybody to use high quality products and maintain also high prices, so that they didn't have to compete on costs and prices, right? This could be seen as a collusion as well. And once again, these are the values which, depending on how you look at them, could be seen as, let's say, advantages and strong and strengths, or could be seen as something which actually does not benefit the end customer. All right.
It could be both. It could be
It could
both
be
things
both.
could be
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
It could be
And then at the end of the day, I think that in the case of Japan, the customers would go for the high quality, and they will be happy to pay more for high quality than to pay less for let's say a crappy product.
Yeah. In the high end,
Yeah,
I think there's
absolutely.
wisdom to finding your niche on the high end.
Mhm.
You got a fun fact at the bottom. Could you explain that?
Yes.
The fun fact at
Yes.
the
Yes.
bottom?
So I added the fun fact because another thing about hidden champions is people often don't know that some of the world's oldest companies that are still in business are in Japan. And by the results of research, many researchers, the oldest still in business is in Japan. And that's the fun fact there at the bottom is this company, construction company, founded in 578 AD, is still in business.
That's
Pretty
Shotoku before that, you know. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's old. Wow.
Yeah.
And that
wow. In fact, that is another category of hidden champions, a secondary category called the centennials, which are companies that are older than 100 years old. Japan, when we're talking about companies that are like 200, 300, 400, 500 years old, Japan has the most, more than Germany and more than anywhere else. Which is, to me, it's just amazing. It really
That's
is.
amazing.
And there's lots to learn from that, you know.
Yeah, there is a reason for them being able to stay in business.
And to study them is
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I enjoy every time we go and visit their offices and get to talk to the current presidents. And some of the stories are just quite amazing. And I wish we had more time, because often we only have about two hours or so. They are quite busy executives. And they don't like to brag. We already went over that. They don't like to talk much. But I wish that in a perfect world that I could have like an evening out with them and hear about all the backstories and the survival and what kept them afloat.
Get really to the honne. You want to get to the honne. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the honne. Love that word. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So fun fact there, right? The oldest company.
I thought it was Mitsui all this time. I thought they were the oldest.
You were saying, Tim?
So that.
Mitsui, right.
I thought Mitsui was
well,
the
Mitsui
oldest.
is not a hidden champion.
Right.
No, I just
but
heard
it's not
it was
considered
the
a hidden
oldest company.
champion
anymore. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying I heard they were the oldest company in the world, but I was wrong, or I got the wrong information. So now I'm a little wiser.
Yeah. There and continuing on the topic of these small companies that are here in Japan, there are approximately 52,000 of them.
Wow.
We will probably never get to hear any of the names of the majority of them, and 56% of them are older than 200 years. Now that's
amazing.
That is
amazing.
Yeah. And there, I put a picture there of an academic book that was recently published by a Japanese academic who did research on many of these unknown companies as well. And I mean, across many industries. So it's not just a limited amount of industries that they're involved in, but I mean, they're just like everywhere and everything. Now, it is true that some of the oldest hidden champions, the ones that are 300 years old and something like that, are typically hotels. Typically, but not always. There are quite other older, different kinds of industries that are involved across different industries. So let's go ahead and look at a few of these industries. So if you go to the next slide there, Maya.
Yes.
And I apologize ahead of time for all the text. I usually don't like text-heavy slides, but I just wanted to kind of give you an overview so that you can, not just listen to my voice, but look at the text, maybe take a snapshot of it. And you can see when you're looking at these different companies that they're really involved, not just in manufacturing generally, meaning creating an actual physical product. But it's across many different sub-industries, right? If that's a way to explain it. Even in newer things like robotics and electronics and such, so semiconductors. So I don't wish for anyone to think that these SMEs are like these grungy companies making these very basic products, but they are making really advanced precision products for the marketplace. And, is there anything else that you notice about these companies? Looking at this slide, sorry, a lot of text, I know, but is there anything that pops out to you?
Well, they don't have that many employees, right? All of them are just under 200, but most of them are even less than that, under 100 employees.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's
yes.
the very significant point of SME, the hidden champions, is they're not heavy in their employee numbers.
Right.
However, this is a challenge because researchers, it's difficult for the researchers to get exact numbers. So a lot of times it's guesstimates based on the interviews, but also based on submission of documents that are sent to the government, for benefits and things like that, Social Security. But the numbers, as Maya was able to see, is that they're really small. And I've mentioned it before in other sessions together with you all, is that the reason for this, amongst other reasons, is that they rely heavily on individual workers' skills and their innovative minds and ideas. So you really truly become important to the organization.
Yeah,
you're not just a number.
Right. Yeah.
We talked about that too. Yeah, that's their most valuable resource. They acknowledge it and they believe it.
Yeah.
And so true to the nature of success of any company, communication is really important. So they communicate with everyone, and everyone knows each other, and they rely on each other, and they trust each other. And I think big companies or big corporations could really go back to the basics and say, communication is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Driven by relationships a lot. And also the Japanese excel at visual communication. Like even in the way they manage the factory, you never had to go into a computer to get a gauge on your inventory level. It was all displayed on a big board, and anyone walking by could see it. And if there was a problem, it was elevated so everybody could see it. They Mede Kandi is what they called it, visual management systems. And so I imagine these companies also have that combination. Those human relationships are tight, which means communication is naturally better. And then just systematically how they get that information out to everybody.
Yeah. And I think that another expression of that in business is, of course, in bigger companies, inevitably you've got divisions, you've got departments. So, siloism is a real challenge for some of the biggest companies here. But at the same time, when people work on a project, if you have, 10 people working on one project, they send emails and CC everybody working on the project in those emails. So when I was working for my previous employer, I would get between 20 and 30 emails per day just from different people who were working on that project, and that was also part of the communication. So there wasn't a message board, but the CCing, including everybody in the communication, was really a big thing there.
Yeah, yeah. I think this could be also a potential, I hope, appeal point to young people looking for somewhere where they can say, I want to fit in, and I want to be. I recently heard this expression, and I kind of thought about it, and I like it. And it says, "Be careful of a company that says you're part of the family."
Yeah, I agree.
And it's better to hear somebody say you're part of the team.
Yeah.
Because then you are equals, and then they know that you are part of something, and you're an important part of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
A mission.
Where
it's more
if
mission
they say,
oriented. Yeah.
Right. Because if they say you're part of the family, that means that someone's in charge, someone's a parent, someone's an older sibling.
Someone's being indulged. Yeah, I know. I agree. I agree.
Right. I never thought of it that way, but I once I heard it and thought about it, that makes good sense. And I think these hidden champions approach it this way, is that they approach it as they may express it, we're kind of a family, but I think what they really mean, and sometimes they often say also, is that the team is very important. Each member is quite important.
You're part of the feudal clan. It's
the clan.
It's a feudalistic entity. You're in the clan, not the American bad clan. The Japanese clan.
Okay. Next slide. These are some of the challenges that we've identified. Not all the challenges, but some of the challenges we identified in our research, my students and I, and other researchers as well, is that employment. So, like I mentioned earlier, the exact number of employees it's sometimes unknown, and also quite small, as Maya identified earlier. Many of these companies do not have huge, number of employees, which is good and bad, I guess. Because of number 3, right? It can play into the part of scalability. So they don't really grow as fast and as big as some Western companies that we know, like
aspire to,
like Apple and Microsoft. They might say, we have 20,000 employees around the world. They're not like that. Number 2 is they have a lot of very private information that they're not willing to share. I mean, they are willing to share knowledge, that's for sure. But as far as the techniques, or the machinery they use, or the ingredients they use, they're very, very private, and they that's one of the reasons they like to remain hidden. And then, of course, number 4 is financials. Because they are privately owned most of the time, family owned in a majority, financials are unknown. However, they are profitable based on documentation that they have to provide to the government. And of course, they're still in business.
They are in business, yes.
They lasted.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are just some of the challenges that we have identified. And I think number 3, scalability, they're still working on. They do have global mindset. They do sell abroad. They do sell to foreign companies and nations. But they are not what we would consider, multinational, international kind of organization. Like, perhaps.
And may I say that some of these challenges are basically challenges for the researchers, and other challenges are challenges for the businesses themselves, right? So, because the financials, for example, I think that it is a challenge for the researchers and the people, the individuals who want to study them and learn from them, right? And basically, I cannot see this as a challenge for the businesses themselves, because they just don't want to disclose those details. And I mean, like, it's private, they're private entities, private businesses, so they don't have to. But as you say,
Yeah,
they're
well
still in
said.
business. Yes, they're still in business, which tells you that they are successful and their financials are not, they're still in the black.
Yeah, and sometimes we see that in Western companies, right?
Yes, yes, we
There's
do.
public corporations, and then at one point or in their history, they'll go private sometimes because they just would rather not.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
There are advantages to going private, and especially if you're not intent on scaling.
Oh, I think that even if you're intent on scaling, sometimes remaining private, yes.
How often? Is that common? Is that common, or
no,
is it
it's
the
not common.
exception? Right?
It's not common, but I would say that there is also, let's say, a societal or social pressure, business pressure, industrial pressure to go public. And I can tell you that my business school basically is still a private organization, and they have, how can I put it? They have resisted to the pressure of going public, and
Good for them.
Good for them, and they continue to grow globally because they do not have shareholders; they have stakeholders. And the point there is that they work for the stakeholders and they work for the growth of the organization without having to worry about the shareholders.
Yeah, and going public creates more pressure to make
Indeed.
decisions based on the short-term next quarter.
Yes,
And
exactly.
if you're long-term oriented, it has built-in disadvantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much
Yeah,
so.
sometimes unrealistic expectation, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And then one last slide, and these for me are the key takeaways that we learned from the previous year's research, because we've been at this for the last 3 years, maybe longer than that now, where we've been interviewing different hidden champions across Japan. This year we're gonna kick off another round, but we're gonna stay a little bit closer to home. We're gonna be researching hidden champions in the Kanagawa and Tokyo area, which there are a lot of. We have been previously going to smaller cities, to smaller towns. Sometimes it was challenging because we had to walk everywhere. there was no train stations. But yeah, we're going to stay within the area this year. I am going to send a few students probably to Kansai region again, but for the most part, this year I'll be bringing these hidden champions that are locally. So if anybody's listening and they're in the area, they could, and they like the products or companies, they could probably be able to visit. But these are some of the takeaways that we had is, and no surprise on a lot of these, the long-term vision being very important. I like that there's low employee turnover. Again,
exactly. And I feel like that low employee turnover, to me, that is the result of a company that truly values their people. And I almost feel like that should be on the list, because that's what leads to things like low turnover. In Japan, it's just kind of assumed, but in America, it's not. They say it in their mission statement, but they don't always mean it. But in Japan, I think they really mean it.
Yes.
It's baked in to the way they look at it.
Yeah. And if I may add something here. So once again, these takeaways and your research, Dr. Joe, shows that the stereotype many foreigners have about Japan, that Japan, nothing happens here, that there is, no innovation in the country, and that industries are stuck in the past and this and that. It's actually just a stereotype, and it's not true. Because we also know that it's not the big companies that sustain the Japanese economy, it is the small and medium-sized businesses. And a big part of those medium-sized and small and medium-sized businesses are also hidden champions, right? And they are the ones who, as you say here, in these takeaways, they have a long-term vision and long-term leadership, low employee turnover, and also they're capable of pivoting and high innovation and creativity levels, right? And one more thing is that I want to say that when we talk about innovation, we imagine innovation in the final end product or end service, and that's not always the case. So innovation in Japan comes, it comes through the process, the production processes. It comes through ideas about, let's say, how you face the end customer, or how you face your B2B customer as well, right? So innovation is there throughout the whole process. It's not just the end product. And many people like to think about innovation as the final product. So this is one thing, I think, one insight which we can also see in your research and your students' research.
It's cumulative, ongoing.
Yes.
And it seems slow, but after a year, you're like, oh my God, we got so much better at this. Like, it's almost, it's quiet innovation. It's invisible. It's plotting. It's deliberate. It's, there's a little risk involved, but they try to minimize the risk as much as possible.
Yes.
And again, it's very quiet innovation. And again, as we started out today, they're not begging for attention. They're quietly doing their business and doing the talking, letting their products do the talking.
Yeah.
I would, if I were to coin a term, looking at Tim's comment where he said quiet innovation, I like that. And if I were to also coin a term, I would probably risk to say hidden innovation.
Maybe hidden.
Yes.
I'm trying to say the same thing, but same concept. Yeah, it's hidden,
right?
Because it's done quietly. It's almost like they want to hide it.
Incremental. Which seems almost opposite to the expression open innovation, right? It's like, okay, it's counter to that, but I don't think so. And I'll tell you, to sum it up, I saw this video the other day. Somebody made a video about visiting Japan. There's lots of these TikTok videos. Oh, Japan is, go here, go there. And this one person was making a video about opening pudding. And they said, and we talked about this, if you remember, earlier this year, one of the companies I introduced, one of the hidden champions, makes this product. And this person was talking about opening the lid of a pudding container.
Right.
And the pudding just would slide off of the film of the
cover.
It would just slide off, and they said, "Oh, only in Japan," And they were talking about this cool, innovative, cover where the pudding slides off, so you can enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's innovation like that is kind of quiet innovation, this hidden innovation that it's small,
detail oriented, really
detailed.
Yeah.
But it's there. It is innovative.
Yes.
And I think we introduced this company a couple of months ago. It can apply to other things, so not just pudding cover, but to
well, definitely the yogurt cups. You never get yogurt stuck to that film, which keeps the yogurt fresh, right? So it's in the food industry, definitely it's there. But once again, you have a teapot, right? The teapots produced in Japan, you can be sure in maybe 95% of the cases that you don't have to worry about staining the tablecloth, right?
Because it won't dribble out.
It won't dribble out. Yes. And that's also such a tiny detail, but it makes or let's say housewives' life so much easier
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
worry-free.
Details. Yeah,
And less
I like it.
complaints, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, an hour's already up. I can't believe
Yeah.
it went fast.
Yeah.
Another great story. I love these stories. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
Yeah.
Joe.
Thank you
these are
for
Yes.
listening.
great, Yeah.
I love
This
sharing,
is
and thank you so much.
you should do a TED talk too. I was thinking that.
Oh,
This is
that
a
would be
Yes.
great
nice.
TED talk. Yeah. Like a 15-minute talk. And some of the facts you spit out today, man, they were great. Like what? The number of companies over 400 years old and what percentage of the company, 52,000. Like that slide was real powerful. Just looking at that slide.
Yes. Mm,
Great. Awesome.
That's what I
indeed.
love.
No, thank you so much. And I
Well,
hope
thank you.
our listeners enjoy it too.
So Dr. Joe, coming to a TED talk near you someday.
Yes. Okay, so thank you very much for this, Dr. Joe. And you can find these, Dr. Joe's stories on a separate page of Japan Expert Insight. So it's going to be there probably by the end of this week. So do not worry about that. You can always, you can go through
Reference
all
it.
of them. Yeah, reference it. Yes, and thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to the next session, of course, as always. Yes, me being the eternal enthusiast about,
The
learning new
chief
things.
enthusiast.
Yes,
And
chief
the chief
enthusiast.
dude. And the chief.
Yes,
Chief dude.
chief dude and the chief curmudgeon. Yes,
All
thank you
right.
very much for this. And of course, I want to once again give a shout out to our sponsors. They are Kanachu, or as they are known online, kanachu.com and House.